The alien warship floated like a dark shadow above the broken earth. Cities had fallen, oceans burned, and mountains shook under alien fire. Humanity was on its knees, but not destroyed. Inside the throne chamber of the alien flagship, the Queen sat on a tall black seat made of living metal, her golden eyes glowing with cruel amusement. A single human soldier was dragged before her. Chains around his arms, he was bruised, blood on his face, but his back remained straight. The alien guards pushed him to his knees, yet he did not bow his head. The Queen looked at him as if he were a small insect, something too weak to matter. She leaned forward, her voice cold and sharp. "So this is what your kind calls a warrior," she said, her words echoing in the chamber. "Your weapons are nothing but toys. Your army's nothing but dust," she laughed, a sound like iron breaking. Her sharp teeth caught the light as she mocked him. "Tell me, human, is your weapon as pathetic as your ego?" The guards laughed with her, their voices like hammers striking stone. But the human soldier only stared at her. His blue eyes hard and unbroken, he did not answer. And his silence made the Queen narrow her eyes. In that silence there was defiance, something that unsettled her even if she would never admit it. She rose from her throne, walking slowly around him, her steps echoing in the chamber. "You fight for a dying world," she whispered. "You fight for ashes." She paused and touched the barrel of the soldier's broken rifle that had been thrown before her. It was scratched, dirty, and small compared to alien technology. She lifted it with one hand as if it weighed nothing. "This is your weapon," she sneered. "This is your pride." And once again she laughed, long and cruel, filling the air with her mockery. The soldier finally spoke, his voice hoarse but steady. "You don't understand us," he said. The words were simple, but they carried a strange strength. The Queen tilted her head, almost curious, but then dismissed it with another smile. She was too proud, too certain of her own power to take him seriously. The guards dragged the soldier away, but his eyes never left hers. And in that last look there was a warning. The Queen sat back on her throne, still smiling, but her thoughts were not at peace. Something about the human's gaze stayed in her mind like a thorn. Why did such a weak creature look at her with no fear? Why did his voice sound more certain than her laughter? Far below, on the burning earth, whispers of resistance spread. Hidden radios carried coded messages. Broken cities sheltered fighters who refused to surrender. The humans were not finished, even if the Queen believed so. The world was scarred, but hearts were unbroken. And somewhere in the dark ruins, a secret plan was growing. A plan that would make the Queen regret her laughter. For now, she thought she had won. For now, she believed her enemies were weak. But the story of humanity had never been written in easy victories. It had always been written in survival, in defiance, in standing tall when others expected them to fall. The chamber grew silent again after the soldier was taken. Only the Queen's laughter echoed in her mind. She thought it was the sound of triumph, but one day soon, she would realize it was the beginning of her downfall, and the soldier's words would haunt her. "You don't understand us." The night sky above Earth was no longer filled with stars. It was filled with the shadow of alien warships, their engines glowing like fire in the heavens. Cities were silent, streets were empty, and the world seemed broken. But in the silence, whispers began to rise, soft but steady, like sparks in the dark, in the ruins of an old subway station. A group of humans huddled around a dying lantern. The air smelled of smoke and rust, the walls still blackened from the last bombardment, yet their eyes were alive. Sharp with determination, they were not soldiers. Not trained warriors, just survivors. But they carried something stronger than weapons. They carried hope. An old man turned a rusty radio dial. His fingers shaking but careful. Static filled the air, broken by fragments of coded voices. "Eagle still flies," the message whispered. "The fire still burns." The humans looked at each other, and in their tired faces smiles began to form. They were not alone. The fight was still alive far across the ocean. In the ruins of what was once a shining city, another signal answered. A young woman tapped out a reply with trembling hands. Her brother slept beside her, too weak to move, his body thin from hunger. Yet when the radio crackled with voices of resistance, she knew their suffering had meaning. She whispered to him even though he slept. "We are not finished." The aliens thought Earth was broken, but underground tunnels, abandoned factories, and shattered homes became secret meeting places. Everywhere the aliens saw ruins, humans saw shelter. Everywhere the aliens saw weakness, humans found strength. They passed messages in the smoke of burning buildings. In the rhythm of hammer strikes, in the patterns of lights flashing from broken towers, whispers became a language of survival, and survival became a weapon. One boy, no older than 12, carried a message hidden in his shoe. He ran through ruined streets, past alien patrols, past machines scanning the night. When a searchlight passed over him, he froze like a shadow, holding his breath until it moved away. His heart raced, but he did not stop at last. He reached a hidden cellar where tired fighters waited. The boy handed them the folded paper, and when they read it, hope filled the room like fire. The message was simple. A weapon is coming. No one knew what it meant, but no one doubted it. The word passed from group to group, whispered in basements, scratched onto broken walls, carried by children, by mothers, by old men who had nothing left but courage. The aliens could crush armies, but they could not crush whispers. And the whispers grew louder every day. On the alien flagship, the Queen sat in her chamber, unaware of how close the humans stood to her throne. Reports came of small attacks, alien patrols destroyed, supply ships stolen, weapons stolen and remade. She dismissed them as meaningless. Her generals assured her the humans were only delaying the inevitable. But still, when she closed her eyes, she remembered the soldier's words. You don't understand us. And for the first time in years, she felt something close to doubt, deep under the broken mountains. In a cavern lit by torches and scraps of stolen alien light, a secret council gathered. Scientists who had once built machines of peace now built weapons of survival. Farmers who once worked the land now mapped enemy routes. Teachers, doctors, and children all found their place in this hidden war. And in the center of the cavern stood a half-built machine. Rough, dirty, human-made, but alive with strange power. It was not finished, but when it was, the aliens would no longer laugh. The whispers spread about it like fire. Some said it was a ship. Others said it was a weapon that could burn the sky. No one knew the truth except that it was real. And because it was real, the people endured one more day. One more night, one more battle. The Queen laughed still, but her laughter echoed less and less in the silence of Earth. For every laugh there was a whisper. For every whisper there was a spark. And from sparks flames always rise. The humans were waiting, watching, planning. They had been mocked, beaten, and broken. But in the shadows of their ruined world, they whispered to one another the same promise. We will rise again. And though the Queen did not know it yet, her laughter was already beginning to fade. The first time the humans struck back, the aliens never saw it coming. For weeks, the whispers had carried promises of a weapon, but no one knew where it would appear. The Queen dismissed the rumors as lies, tricks of desperate minds, but deep in the ruins of Earth, something was moving. Something even her ships could not detect in the dead of night. A storm covered the sky with thunder and lightning. The alien patrol ships scanned the dark clouds, searching for human survivors. What they did not see was a stolen alien craft rising from a hidden mountain cave. It was damaged, scarred, and its engines groaned with human modifications. Inside, a small crew of humans held their breath, hands gripping controls that were never meant for them. The pilot, a woman with a scar across her cheek, whispered, "For Earth." Her crew repeated the words softly, like a prayer. They had studied the alien ship for months, torn it apart, rebuilt it, and made it something new. Where alien technology was sleek and perfect, human hands had made it rough, patched, and unpredictable. But it was theirs, and that made it dangerous. The ship broke through the storm clouds, lightning flashing across its battered hull. Ahead, an alien patrol floated lazily, confident in their power. The Queen's forces had grown arrogant, certain no human craft could fly in their skies. But arrogance is a blindfold, and blindness is a weakness. The human ship roared forward, its stolen weapons flickering with unstable energy. The aliens noticed too late. A beam of light burst from the stolen craft, tearing through the patrol ship. The explosion lit the clouds like a second sun. Thunder rolled with the sound of fire. For the first time since the war began, alien metal burned in the sky above Earth. The crew cheered, but the pilot only whispered, "It's just the beginning." They turned their ship toward another patrol. Missiles, half alien, half human, screaming into the night. Every strike was like a message to the Queen herself. Humanity was not finished. Every explosion was a whisper made louder, a whisper turning into a roar on the alien flagship. Alarms rang through the throne chamber. The Queen stood, her golden eyes narrowing as reports flooded in. "One of our patrols destroyed," a general shouted. Another gone. The Queen clenched her fists, her laughter silenced at last. "How?" she demanded, her voice sharp with rage. "How can broken creatures destroy my ships?" But no one could answer. Across the planet, humans saw the fire in the sky. From shattered rooftops, from dark tunnels, from burning fields. They looked upward for the first time in years. They saw alien ships fall, and in their hearts, something long buried began to awaken. It was not just hope, it was fire. Children pointed to the glowing wreckage falling through the clouds. Shouting with joy, old men whispered prayers of thanks. Mothers held their children close, telling them the sky no longer belonged only to the enemy. Every burning piece of alien metal became a symbol, a sign that the whispers were true. Humanity had found a way to fight. But the battle was not won, not yet. The alien queen sent more ships, massive war machines that blotted out the stars. The stolen human craft weaved between them like a hawk among giants, firing, dodging, striking again and again. The crew knew they could not last forever. But their mission was not survival. Their mission was to prove a truth the Queen had laughed at, that humanity could not be broken. The stolen ship was finally cornered. Surrounded by alien fire, the pilot gritted her teeth. Hands steady on the controls, she whispered. One more, and fired her last weapon. The explosion tore through the nearest alien cruiser, flames raining down on the battlefield. In the chaos, the stolen ship dove into the clouds, disappearing into the storm. The Queen watched the burning wreckage of her ships through the eyes of her commanders. Her lips curled, but this time it was not laughter. It was anger, sharp and cold. "You dare," she whispered. "You dare rise against me." But deep inside her heart, buried under pride, was something else, fear. For the first time since her war began, humanity had drawn blood. The whispers had turned into fire, and the fire had climbed into the sky. The Queen's throne room was silent. Her laughter had faded, replaced by the sound of alarms echoing through her great ship. She had always believed humanity was nothing but dust waiting to be swept away. But now her patrols were burning in Earth's skies, and her pride began to tremble. She stood before a great screen, watching reports of the stolen human ship. Her generals bowed low, afraid to meet her golden eyes. "Your Majesty," one whispered, "the humans have learned to use our weapons." The Queen's voice was calm, but under her words there was fire. "No," she said. "They have done more than that." She clenched her fist. "They have changed them." On Earth, the whispers spread faster than fire through dry grass. Every child, every old man, every broken family heard the news. A human ship had flown. A human ship had destroyed alien machines. The whispers no longer belonged to the shadows. Now they rang in the open air. Now they became shouts. Humanity fights back. In an abandoned factory, resistance leaders gathered around a table lit by broken lamps. The pilot of the stolen ship stood before them, her scar catching the dim light. She spoke simply, her voice steady. "We cannot win with weapons alone," she said. "We must fight with what makes us human." The room grew quiet, every face turned toward her. "We adapt," she continued. "We learn, we endure, and we fight even when we are already broken." And in her words, they heard not just strategy but truth above Earth. The Queen ordered her fleet to gather. Dozens of massive warships moved into position, their shadows blotting out the sun. She would crush this rebellion before it grew stronger. She would turn the whispers into ashes, but she did not know that humans were already preparing something she could not understand. In a hidden cavern deep beneath the mountains, the unfinished machine stirred. It was ugly, made of scraps, wires, and stolen alien parts. But inside it beat the heart of human invention. Scientists who once built hospitals, engineers who once built bridges, and dreamers who once looked at the stars now worked side by side. They called it the Ark, but it was no ship of escape. It was a weapon born from desperation. The Ark was designed not to match alien power, but to twist it, to turn their strength against them. If it worked, humanity would not only survive, they would rise. If it failed, there would be nothing left. The choice was clear, and the whispers carried the decision to every corner of Earth. There was no turning back. The Queen's fleet descended. The sky filled with the hum of alien engines. Entire cities shook as shadows swallowed the light. Human fighters with rifles made of steel and hope ran to their positions. Children carried water. Mothers carried supplies. Even the weakest stood ready to help. This was not a war of soldiers alone. This was the war of a people, When the first alien ships fired, the ground split apart, fire spread across the ruins. But humanity did not scatter. The whispers had taught them to wait, to endure, and to strike at the right time. From the mountains, from the seas, from the skies, humans rose with stolen ships, hidden cannons, and courage. The Queen's fleet had expected an easy hunt. What they found was fire, the battle was chaos. Alien beams tore through buildings. Human missiles screamed upward. The Ark trembled in its cavern, its core glowing brighter as its builders pushed it toward life. Just a little more, one scientist whispered, just a little more. Above, the pilot of the stolen craft flew once again, weaving through alien fire. Her voice crackled through the human radios. Steady and strong. Hold the line, she said. Don't give them what they want. And for the first time, humans held. The Queen watched from her throne, fury burning in her chest. She had brought her full power against them, yet they did not break. Her golden eyes narrowed, and though she would not admit it, she felt it again, fear the turning point had come. The whispers were no longer whispers, they had become shouts, songs, and cries that shook the heavens. The Queen had laughed at humanity, but now she could hear the truth in the roar of battle. Her laughter was fading and humanity's fire was rising. The sky was burning. Alien warships covered the heavens like a storm of metal, their beams cutting through cities and mountains. Humanity fought back with everything they had, but the battle was brutal. The ground shook with every explosion. The air was filled with smoke and fire, and the cries of both sides echoed into the night among the chaos. Captain Elias stood on the bridge of an old human warship. It was not sleek like the alien machines, it was scarred, patched and tired, but it still flew. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders, their faces pale but determined. He knew the truth, they all did. Their ship was not strong enough to win. But sometimes victory was not about winning. Sometimes it was about giving others a chance to fight on. Captain, his second officer whispered. We can't hold much longer. Elias looked at the screens. Alien cruisers were closing in, their weapons charging. He felt the weight of every life on his ship. The fear, the hope, the courage. Then he looked beyond the fear and saw something greater. The Ark, the half-built machine deep in the mountains. It was almost ready, but it needed more time. If the aliens reached it now, everything would be lost. Elias straightened his back, his voice steady. Then we give them that time, he said. The crew exchanged glances, they understood. No one argued. No one begged for another way. They all knew the cost, and they were ready to pay it. The ship roared forward, its engines burning brighter than ever. Alien beams tore through its armor, but still it pushed on. The humans fired everything they had, missiles, cannons, even scrap weapons built from ruined factories. Explosions lit the sky, and alien ships shuddered under the desperate assault. It was not enough to destroy them all, but it was enough to make them turn. Enough to draw their attention away from the Ark. Target the flagship, Elias ordered, his voice calm as if he were giving orders in a training drill. The crew obeyed, their hands moving with grim determination. Every weapon on the human ship locked onto the massive alien cruiser ahead. The Queen herself was watching from that ship, her golden eyes narrowing as she realized what the humans were doing. They dare, she hissed, her voice sharp with disbelief. They dare throw themselves at me. The human ship shook as alien fire ripped through its hull. Alarms screamed. Flames burst from broken panels. Still, Elias stood firm, his hands gripping the railing. Hold steady, he said. We only need one chance. The crew nodded, sweat dripping down their faces, their voices quiet as they repeated the old human words, for Earth. At the last moment, when the alien cruiser filled the screen, Elias gave the order. All power to engines. The ship surged forward like a falling star. Faster, brighter, unstoppable. The Queen rose from her throne, her eyes wide as she understood too late. The human warship collided with the alien cruiser in a blinding explosion. Fire tearing across the sky for a moment, the heavens themselves seemed to shatter. The blast ripped through the alien fleet. Shields failing, metal breaking, the Queen's flagship staggered, her throne room shaking as alarms screamed around her. Her generals fell to their knees, fear written across their faces. But in her mind, she did not hear their cries. She only heard the echo of that human's final choice. The sound of sacrifice. On Earth, the people watched the burning wreckage fall from the sky. They knew what had happened. They knew a ship of their own had been lost. Yet they did not weep in despair. They lifted their eyes and whispered the captain's name like a promise. His sacrifice had bought them time, had bought them hope. And hope was the weapon the aliens could never crush. Deep in the mountains, the Ark's core glowed brighter. The scientists worked faster, their hands moving with new strength. They had been given the gift of time, and they would not waste it, the Queen. Standing among the ruins of her pride, clenched her fists, she had mocked humanity, called them pathetic, weak, laughable. But now she had seen with her own eyes a truth she could not deny. They were willing to give their lives not for conquest, not for power, but for one another. That was something her kind would never understand, and it was something she could never truly defeat. The sacrifice of one ship had shaken her fleet. The sacrifice of one man had changed the war, and though the battle raged on, the turning tide had begun. The smoke of battle still clung to the skies above Earth. Alien cruisers floated like dark mountains, their weapons still glowing, but something had changed, something that even the Queen could feel in her bones. The humans had sacrificed a ship, sacrificed their captain, and yet they did not crumble. Instead, they grew stronger. On the alien flagship, the Queen paced her throne room, her golden eyes burning with frustration. Her generals knelt before her, afraid to speak, afraid to remind her of what she had just witnessed. She broke the silence herself, her voice sharp. "They are weak, they should break. They should surrender," she hissed. But her words sounded hollow even to her own ears, because deep inside she knew what she had seen. Weak creatures do not sacrifice themselves like that. Far below in the hidden mountain cavern, the Ark's heart pulsed with light. The scientists worked without rest, sweat covering their faces, hands trembling as they connected the last pieces. The machine was alive now, glowing with stolen alien energy and human invention. But it was not only the Ark that was alive, it was the people themselves. The sacrifice of Captain Elias had given them something stronger than fear. It had given them unity. In ruined streets and broken tunnels, humans whispered to one another, "He gave his life for us, he burned the sky for Earth." The whispers spread like fire, and the fire spread into courage. Every man, every woman, every child who heard those words felt a spark in their chest. They were not fighting alone, they were fighting as one. The Queen's eyes narrowed as she watched her enemies rise again. She had the strongest ships, the greatest weapons, and the cruelest warriors. But the humans fought with something she could not name, something she could not crush with fire. It haunted her thoughts. What was their weapon? If not machines, if not guns, if not their fragile bodies. She remembered the soldier she had mocked, the one who stared at her without fear. His words came back to her. "You don't understand us." At the time she had laughed, but now the echo of those words felt heavier than chains. What was it that she did not understand? In the mountains, the Ark finally roared to life. Its core spun with light, its power humming through the cavern. The scientists stepped back, shielding their eyes as the machine filled the air with energy. It was ready, but even as the Ark shone, the humans knew the truth. The Ark was not their greatest weapon. It was only a tool, a spark. The real weapon was the reason they had built it in the first place. Hope, unity, sacrifice, courage. These were the blades sharper than steel. These were the flames that burned hotter than alien fire. The Queen ordered her fleet to prepare for another strike. She wanted to crush this spirit before it spread further. But even as she commanded, doubt poisoned her pride. She had never faced an enemy like this. Her kind fought for dominance, for glory, for power. But these humans fought for something else, for one another, for their children, for their future, and that made them dangerous. The pilot of the stolen ship returned to the cavern. Her face pale, her uniform torn, she stood before the people, her voice steady though her body shook with exhaustion. "Elias gave us time," she said. "Now it is our turn to fight for him," the crowd answered with a single voice. For Earth. It was no longer a whisper, no longer a secret promise, it was a roar. A war cry that shook the walls. The Ark lifted from the cavern. Rising into the smoke-filled sky, it was not beautiful, not elegant, but it was alive. The people cheered as it climbed higher. The Queen's ships turned to face it, weapons ready. But even as the Ark rose, even as the battle continued, the truth had already been revealed. The Ark was not the real weapon. The real weapon was the spirit of the humans who built it, who fought for it, who were willing to die for one another. The Queen watched, her pride cracking with every heartbeat. She had laughed at them, mocked them, called them pathetic, but now she felt something she had not felt in centuries. Not anger, not hatred, but fear, because she finally began to understand. Humanity's weapon was not in their hands. It was in their hearts, and no empire, no fleet. No queen could ever truly destroy that. The humans had shown her the truth. The greatest weapon of all was being human. The Ark rose higher, glowing like a star against the dark sky. Alien warships circled it, their weapons aimed, their commanders waiting for the Queen's final command. From her throne aboard the flagship, the Queen leaned forward, her lips curling into a cold smile. She had mocked these creatures, called them weak, pathetic, fragile, and yet they stood against her still. It was time, she told herself. Time to crush their hope once and for all. Destroy it, she ordered, her voice echoing through the halls. Her fleet obeyed, unleashing a storm of fire. Blazing energy streaked through the sky, lighting the earth below in flashes of red and gold. But the Ark did not fall. Shielding panels snapped into place, powered by the alien energy the humans had stolen. The ship shook but held, rising higher, its engines roaring like thunder. Inside the Ark, the pilot gripped the controls, sweat running down her brow. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were steady. She whispered to herself, to Elias, to everyone who had fallen. "This is for you." The crew around her worked like one body. Engineers, soldiers, even farmers who had never seen battle. They all fought together, not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. The humans on the ground lifted their eyes to the skies. They saw the Ark climbing, defying the storm. Defying death itself, children cheered. Soldiers clenched their fists. Old men and women wept with pride. Every heart on earth beat as one. The Queen had her fleets, her firepower, her armies. But the humans had something greater. They had each other. The Queen watched in silence, her smile fading. She had seen civilizations crumble, planets burn, empires kneel, but never had she seen this. Never had she seen such fire in creatures so fragile. Her generals glanced at her nervously. "My Queen," one whispered. "They should have fallen by now." The Queen's claws dug into her throne. "They will," she hissed, but her voice cracked. The Ark pierced through the enemy line, its stolen energy bursting like a storm. Its weapons were crude, but every shot carried human will. Alien ships exploded one by one, not because the Ark was stronger, but because the humans refused to stop. Every explosion lit up the Queen's face. Her pride began to tremble, her certainty began to break. Then the Ark broadcast a signal, a single message sent across every frequency. It was not a threat, not a boast, not a demand. It was the voice of the pilot, strong and unshaken. "You thought we were weak. You thought we would beg, but you were wrong. We are human, and we will never surrender." The words spread across the battlefield, carried on human tongues and alien speakers alike. Soldiers on Earth roared, their voices rising louder than the battle itself. "For humanity," they cried, "for Earth." The Queen clutched her chest as if the words themselves had pierced her armor. Never had she felt such fear. This was not just resistance. This was defiance that no blade, no fire, no empire could kill. The Ark dived into the heart of the alien fleet, its core glowing brighter and brighter. The scientists knew what would happen, the crew knew too. It was not just a ship, it was a symbol, a flame that would burn forever. The Ark exploded in a storm of light, ripping through the alien warships. Tearing the skies apart, the blast shook the world. But the people did not cry in despair, they cried in triumph. Because the Ark's sacrifice meant life, meant freedom, meant victory. The Queen's flagship rocked under the shockwave. Alarms screamed, flames burst from her throne room. She stood trembling, her pride shattered, her empire burning around her. She remembered her own laughter, the way she had mocked that soldier. "Is your weapon as pathetic as your ego?" she had sneered. But now she knew the answer. The human weapon was never their machines, never their strength, it was their spirit, their unity, their willingness to fight even when the universe itself stood against them. The Queen fell to her knees, the fire around her throne reflecting in her golden eyes. Her voice was a whisper now, hollow, broken. "They proved me wrong." Across Earth, survivors stood in silence, staring at the sky where the Ark had burned. The light was gone, but the fire remained in their hearts. Humanity had paid a price, but they had won something greater. Respect, freedom, the right to stand unbroken. And in that silence, in that victory, one truth echoed louder than any battle cry. Humanity's greatest weapon was not steel, not fire, not ships or guns. It was the unbreakable spirit of being human. And no empire in the galaxy would ever forget it.